Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Thursday, January 30th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. An American Airlines jet with 64 people on board crashes in midair with a Black Hawk helicopter near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. Both aircraft wind up plunging into the Potomac River. This morning, the massive search for survivors as well as bodies. And from 15 prisoners to tens of thousands, President Trump's plan to use Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba as a detention facility for what he says are the worst criminals rounded up in the ongoing immigration sweeps.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
We begin with breaking news. A massive search and rescue operation is underway right now near Washington, D.C. after an American Airlines passenger jet collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter in midair while the plane was getting ready to land at Reagan National Airport late last night. About 300 first responders are searching for survivors in the Potomac River, where both aircraft went down. Divers are now in the water. Officials have said they do not know if there are any survivors. Authorities have confirmed fatalities. NBC News is reporting this morning that searchers have recovered more than 12 bodies. However, authorities have not released an official number at this point. There were 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board the American Airlines jet flying to Reagan National from Wichita, Kansas. It was Flight 5342 that was slated to land at the airport around 9 p.m. The Army has confirmed 3 soldiers were on board the Black Hawk helicopter, which was on a training flight. It is not yet clear what caused the midair crash, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Army and Pentagon have launched an investigation. President Donald Trump has been briefed on the crash and in a post on his Truth Social platform said this: "This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented." U.S. Figure Skating, which oversees the sport nationwide, confirms several athletes, coaches, and their families who had been at a development camp in Wichita were on the American Airlines flight. Just last weekend, the U.S. National Championships took place at Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita. The nationally televised event ended on Sunday. Kansas Senators Jerry Moran and Roger Marshall joined Washington, D.C. officials at Reagan National early this morning, where they spoke about the tragedy.
I know that flight. I've flown it many times myself. I lobbied American Airlines to begin having a direct nonstop flight service to DCA in Kansas and in Wichita in particular. We're going to know people who are on this flight, know their family members, know somebody. So this is a very personal circumstance as well as an official response.
You know, when one person dies, it's a tragedy, but when many, many, many people die, it's an unbearable sorrow. It's a heartbreak beyond measure. I want the folks to back home to just know that we care, that we love them, and that this is a time when we'll have to join arms together.
The American Airlines CEO also released a statement expressing, quote, deep sorrow over the crash and saying the company is cooperating fully with the investigation. Reagan National Airport is closed this morning. Airport officials say it will stay that way until at least 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Search and rescue efforts continue, but extremely cold and windy conditions are making things difficult. Authorities are planning to speak at a press conference later this morning where they will likely give more details on the crash. Turning now to the Middle East, where Hamas has begun the process of freeing more hostages today. The terror group will release 3 more Israeli hostages and 5 Thai captives today, the third such release since a ceasefire went into effect in Gaza earlier this month. Israel is set to release another 110 Palestinian prisoners. Already today, Israel has confirmed Hamas has released 20-year-old female Israeli soldier Agam Berger. Berger was among 5 young women soldiers that Hamas abducted in its terror attack on Israel in October of 2023 that touched off a wide-scale war in the Middle East. The Jerusalem Post is quoting Berger's family this morning as saying, "Our hero has returned to us after 482 days in enemy hands." The other 4 were released on Saturday. 2 more Israelis are set to be released today, 29-year-old Arbel Yahud and 80-year-old Gadi Moses. Another 3 hostages, all men, are set to be freed Saturday, along with dozens more Palestinian prisoners. This is just the first phase of the ceasefire, in which Hamas is set to release a total of 33 Israeli hostages in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Hamas says it will not release the remaining hostages without an end to the war and a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Here in the United States, confirmation hearings continue for President Trump's picks to fill key spots in his cabinet. Today, his selection for FBI Director Kash Patel will be on Capitol Hill for a high-stakes confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee. His nomination comes as calls from Republicans for massive reforms in FBI leadership mount, and Democrats have voiced concerns about whether Patel should lead the nation's top law enforcement agency. Also today, confirmation hearings for the president's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., will continue. Kennedy's hearing began yesterday when he faced tough questions from Democrats about his views on issues such as vaccines and abortion. Kennedy has a long history of being a vaccine skeptic. He looked to get ahead of senators' concerns in his opening statement, prompting a protest from the gallery.
Before I conclude, I want to make sure the committee is clear about a few things. News reports have claimed that I'm anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
We'll have order. Please proceed, Mr. Kennedy.
I am pro-safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about the mercury and toxic chemicals in fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare.
Kennedy also cleared up his position on abortion. In the past, he has voiced support for abortion access until fetal viability. Yesterday, he told senators he agrees with President Trump's belief that states should control abortion. Also facing confirmation hearings in front of the Senate today, former Democratic Congresswoman turned Republican Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. And New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, tapped to be the next ambassador to the United Nations. While signing his first bill into law on Wednesday, the Laken-Riley Act on detaining undocumented migrants accused of committing misdemeanors, President Trump announced that the United States will expand the use of the prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. He said the detention center, known for housing al-Qaeda suspected terrorists after September 11, 2001, will soon hold tens of thousands of, in his words, the worst criminal aliens. The president later signed a memo and directed federal officials to get the facility ready. Trump says as many as 30,000 detainees could be sent there. Border Czar Tom Homan says U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement would run the prison. There are just 15 prisoners there now, including alleged 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Previous presidents, including Biden and Obama, had sought to shut down Gitmo, which is a U.S. naval base. The White House has rescinded the original Office of Management and Budget memo, ordering a freeze on all federal grants and loans. Despite invalidating the memo, the White House says the freeze remains in, quote, full force and effect, end quote, to give agencies time to review programs for their compliance with President Trump's agenda. The memo sparked confusion from state and local officials when it was released Monday about which programs would be affected. That still has not been cleared up. There was concern about things such as Meals on Wheels, Head Start, and Medicaid. The freeze was set to take effect on Tuesday, but it was paused by a federal judge to give her time to consider arguments challenging its legality. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the memo was rescinded to, quote, end any confusion created by the judge's temporary block. Finally this morning, with so much going on in the world right now, we could use a bit of good news, right? The Lunar New Year has officially begun, and while this year is known as the Year of the Snake, China kicked off celebrations with bears. More than 24 panda cubs, all born in 2024, made their debut to the world as part of a Chinese New Year's celebration. Caretakers put dragon fruit on the cubs' feet so they could leave a paw print on a special New Year's backdrop as they gathered for fun and photos with their fuzzy friends. 13 of the cubs are from the China Conservation and Research Center for the giant panda, while the other 12 are from the Chengdu Research Base of giant panda breeding. The Year of the Snake symbolizes growth, renewal, and adaptability, encouraging people to reflect on their paths, embrace change, and seek personal growth. And these pandas, as we know, will certainly grow as well. Those are your unbiased updates for Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.